want to talk about some very exciting research going on regarding how to interact with the brain. And I also want to elaborate further on why it is important that we build architectures like the OpenMined open source project to protect the data of individuals. So let's jump in here. So, some brain topics that are being researched today that I found extremely interesting. And forgive my pronunciation, as I'm a technologist, not a biologist. So, connectomics, 3D mapping of the brain, because today the brain is still a black box that we are unaware of how every part of it works. Brainbow, very interesting word. Color mapping of different neurons and pathways using fluorescent proteins. Brain-machine interface or brain-computer interface. Super interesting. Hook a computer up to your brain. Optogenetics, so the ability to control brain circuits or neurons with light. And then brain simulation, putting the brain inside of a computer. So jumping into this, so connectomics, very interesting. Never heard of this before. So they are working to perform 3D mappings of the brain. This research is ongoing at different universities such as MIT. Here's a machine taking a donor's brain, slicing it into very, very small pieces at the nanometer layer. So that's where the genetic proteins would be. It's extremely small. Then they place these individual slices in line on a tape. Then this tape is fed through a very high-tech, essentially MRI machine. What they're doing with this is they're able to look at all of the neurons and vascular arteries inside of the brain, give us a deep insight into how these connections work that we were never able to achieve before. So amazing, amazing research. So moving forward, Brainbow, very similar, except not as difficult and not as slicey. So with this research, they are applying fluorescent proteins to highlight individual neurons and pathways inside the brain. This also is creating some very amazing art from my perspective. Very interesting work. Brain-machine interface. You've probably heard a lot about this lately if you're reading a lot of tech news. It's not extremely new, but the interface that we are hoping to achieve are. So today, this is in place with individuals. For example, someone that may have lost a limb due to injury. We can take these small chips, very, very small, place them inside the human's brain, place that we know hook up to the individual neurons and synapses that would connect to, for example, an arm. That gives the human the ability to move this prosthetic arm just like it would be his own arm. Today, this is mostly reading from the brain. As far as writing back to provide things like sensory touch is still in an infancy state. Optogenetics, very new to me again. So there are pieces of the world that can take in light and convert that to electricity. There are many organisms that have that ability. Humans actually have that ability via the eye to take in photons into the retina, convert those photons into electricity. So via gene therapy, we've determined that we're able to place this type of cells into the neurons on the brain and then focusing light on, as you can see with this individual mouse, we're able to control turning off and on parts of the neural pathways. So for example, there have been experiments with mouse where we could turn on and off hunger, on and off thirst, have the mouse move around. And you could imagine the potential for curing things like Parkinson's and dementia and many other neurological disorders with this. So there's a lot of ethics, social concern that will be upcoming discussions if this does go into humans and how it will be handled. Next thing, so the complete simulation of brain inside a computer. So there's an open source package out there, I believe it's called Neuron, that they are using inside of these supercomputers. And the goal here is to emulate an entire human brain. Extremely interesting. A couple of these are going on in Switzerland and Spain and the US that I'm aware of, probably many others. So far, they've been able to achieve pretty significant emulation at this point. And as you could imagine, with things like the brain machine interface, their thoughts or hopes of being able to upload or copy a human brain into the computer, perhaps achieve mortality or rebirth. A lot of discussion out there for this. So as you imagine, we're getting very, very deep into very sensitive pieces of human data. And that's where I want to bring up the OpenMind project again. So with OpenMind, we could imagine people using machine learning to try to advance the research on these particular topics, which is a great thing for human society as a whole, but needs to be done in a very ethical way, in a way that people still get to guard their data and their thoughts. So using the OpenMind architecture, deep learning, federated learning, homomorphic encryption, smart contracts on a blockchain, and a third-party Oracle service, we'll step through the OpenMind project, but instead of thinking about Joe down here on a mobile phone, let's think about Joe with a brain-computer interface. So AI Inc., the data scientist, would like to perform some machine learning studies, perhaps some Parkinson's. So model specification is written out to the smart contract, a little bit of cryptocurrency, AI Inc.'s public RSA key. Then we have those written to the contract. They're pushed over to third-party Oracle service. Oracle service will now generate the public and private homomorphic key. It will initiate random weights for the model, homomorphically encrypt the model, push these back up to the smart contract. Now Joe's brain-machine interface will call up to the smart contract asking for available models that he could train. Model specifications sent down, verified that Joe is a good study for this brain-machine interface piece. The model is requested down via IPFS. Homomorphically encrypted model sent down. Joe trains the model, written back up to the smart contract. Gradients are verified as good. Now Joe is rewarded with a little bit of cryptocurrency, depending on the data, right? So we step back through typical OpenMind architecture at this point. Oracle service, push back over the trained model, which is homomorphically encrypted. The Oracle service uses the private key to decrypt that. Now the model is encrypted with the data scientist RSA public key. This is written out to the smart contract and pushed over to the data scientist. Now the data scientist has access to this model, and we know because of the generation cycle, the data scientist did not harvest data out. This was an open marketplace, so there was competition available. Security was end-to-end with various encryption pieces in place. So this can be extremely important going forward to protect individuals' data, especially given the active research going on in brain interfacing. So the OpenMind project is open source, available on GitHub. Join our Slack channel, join the mailing list, openmind.org. My Twitter, David Rodas. Email, and Andrew Trask. I am Trask. Thank you for your time and hope to see you soon.